Imagine walking into a church where, just a generation ago, every pew was filled. Families arrived together, children whispered beside their parents, and the sound of prayer echoed through the sanctuary. Today, many of those same churches stand almost silent. The doors are still open, the bells still ring, but the crowds are gone. This is not happening in one city, or even in one country. It is happening across much of the world, and it raises a question that every Christian should ask. Why are millions of people walking away from the church? The answer is more complicated than politics, scandals, or changing times. Behind every statistic is a human story. A grandmother who no longer sees her grandchildren baptized, a young adult searching for meaning outside religion, or a family tradition that quietly disappeared in a single generation.
For centuries, many believed that the Catholic Church would always remain a permanent part of everyday life. Yet today, one of the oldest and largest institutions in human history is facing a transformation unlike anything seen in recent decades. So what is really happening? Is faith disappearing? Is society changing? Or are we witnessing one of the greatest spiritual shifts of our time? To find the answer, we begin in the United States, where the signs of this transformation are becoming impossible to ignore.
If there is one place where this story deserves to begin, it is the United States. For generations, America was seen as a land where religious freedom allowed faith to flourish. Churches were more than places of worship. They were the center of neighborhoods, family traditions, and community life. On Sunday mornings, parking lots filled with cars, children attended religious education, and grandparents passed their beliefs to the next generation, almost without thinking. Faith was woven into everyday life. But over the last 2 decades, something has changed. Recent studies show that the percentage of Americans identifying as Christian has declined significantly, and the Catholic Church has been deeply affected by this trend. Today, fewer than 1 in 5 Americans identify as Catholic, a number that would have seemed almost unimaginable to previous generations. Yet perhaps the most striking statistic is not the overall decline, but the direction of the movement itself. For every 1 person who enters the Catholic Church, approximately 8 people leave.
Think about that for a moment. Imagine a parish joyfully welcoming a new member, while quietly and almost unnoticed, 8 others decide to walk away. Some leave after years of doubt. Others simply stop attending until one day they no longer consider themselves Catholic at all. Behind every number is a story, a family tradition interrupted, a child who grows up without learning the prayers that shaped previous generations, a church pew that once held 3 generations of the same family, now sitting empty. And this raises an even bigger question. Who is leaving? The answer may surprise us, because the greatest transformation is happening among those who will shape the future of the church, the young.
The answer may be more surprising and more concerning than many people realize. The greatest transformation is not happening among those who have spent decades inside the church. It is happening among the generation that will determine its future. For many grandparents, faith was never something that needed to be explained. It was simply part of life. Families prayed together before meals, attended Mass every Sunday, celebrated the feast days of a church, and passed those traditions from one generation to the next. Religion was woven into the rhythm of everyday life.
For many young adults today, that rhythm has changed. They have grown up in a world where information is unlimited, but certainty is rare. They are connected to millions of people through technology,
Yet many describe themselves as lonely or searching for meaning. They ask the same questions every generation has asked. Who am I? Why am I here? What gives life purpose? But they often look for answers in very different places. Social media, entertainment, and online culture now influence values that were once shaped primarily by family and faith communities. The voices competing for their attention are endless, and many of those voices promise happiness without sacrifice, fulfillment without commitment, and spirituality without responsibility. This does not necessarily mean that young people have stopped believing in God. Many still pray during moments of fear. Many still believe there is something greater than themselves. Many continue searching for hope and meaning. But for an increasing number of them, the church is no longer the place where they expect to find those answers. And perhaps that is the real challenge.
The greatest crisis may not be that people reject God. It may be that many no longer believe they need Him in their daily lives. That realization leads us to another question. If so many people are drifting away, what is pulling them away? Is there a single cause behind this global change, or are multiple forces reshaping faith in the modern world? To answer that, we must look beyond the statistics and examine the deeper reasons behind this extraordinary transformation. Whenever a movement of this magnitude happens, there is a natural temptation to search for one simple explanation. But reality is rarely that simple. Some point to the rapid secularization of modern society. As technology advances and lifestyles become faster, religion often moves from the center of public life to the margins of personal life. What was once considered essential gradually becomes optional. Others point to the deep wounds left by abuse scandals and failures of leadership. For countless faithful Catholics, trust was shaken, and rebuilding that trust has proven to be a long and painful process. There are also cultural changes that affect almost every family. Work schedules are more demanding, mass attendance becomes less frequent, and spiritual habits slowly disappear. Rarely does someone wake up one morning and announce, "Today I will leave the church." More often, it happens quietly. One Sunday is missed because life becomes busy, then another. Prayer becomes occasional. Faith, once central, slowly moves to the background. Months become years, and what once seemed permanent becomes a distant memory. That is why this story is about more than statistics. It is about thousands of small decisions that, over time, create one enormous cultural shift. And if we want to understand where this path may lead, we need only look to a continent where these changes have been unfolding for much longer. We need to look at Europe. If the United States reveals the warning signs, Europe may offer a glimpse of what happens when those trends continue for decades. This is the continent that built magnificent cathedrals, inspired some of Christianity's greatest saints, and sent missionaries across the world. For centuries, faith shaped its art, its laws, its culture, and even the rhythm of daily life. It seemed impossible to imagine Europe without the Church. Yet today, that reality is changing. Perhaps nowhere is this transformation more visible than in Germany. Over the past decade, millions of people have formally left the Catholic Church, and in some years alone, hundreds of thousands officially registered their departure. The reasons are complex. Demographic changes, growing secularization, painful abuse scandals that damaged trust, and shifting cultural values have all played a role. Rather than one single cause, it is the accumulation of many factors that has produced one of the most significant religious changes in modern Europe. Germany also has a unique system that often enters this discussion, the church tax. Registered Catholics contribute a portion of their income through the tax system to support the church. For committed believers, this is simply part of belonging to the community. But for those whose faith has already weakened, that obligation sometimes becomes the final step toward formally leaving.
Still, it would be a mistake to believe that finances alone explain what is happening. The deeper question is far more profound. Has modern society changed faster than religious life has been able to adapt? Or have many people gradually reached a point where God no longer occupies the center of their lives? The answer becomes visible not only in surveys and statistics, but in places that once stood as symbols of living faith. Across Europe, churches that were once filled every Sunday now welcome only a small number of worshipers. The buildings remain breathtaking. Their stained glass windows still capture the morning light, their bells still echo through ancient streets, and their architecture continues to inspire admiration from millions of visitors. But beauty alone cannot fill empty pews. In several cities, former churches have been transformed into museums, libraries, concert halls, apartments, and cultural centers. These buildings still preserve history, but they also remind us of an uncomfortable truth. Preserving stone is easier than preserving faith.
A cathedral can survive for centuries. Faith survives only when it lives in people. And perhaps that is why even Italy, the home of the Vatican and one of the strongest symbols of Catholic tradition, is facing its own quiet transformation. Many Italians still celebrate Christmas and Easter with their families. They baptize their children and honor customs that have been passed down through generations. Catholic identity remains deeply connected to the nation's culture. Yet regular participation in religious life has steadily declined, especially among younger generations. The challenge is subtle but significant. When faith becomes primarily a cultural inheritance rather than a personal conviction, traditions may continue while belief slowly fades. The rituals remain, but the relationship that once gave them meaning grows weaker. And if these changes are happening in the historic heart of Catholicism, an even bigger question emerges. What is happening in the part of the world that has long been home to the largest Catholic population on earth?
To understand the full magnitude of this transformation, we must cross the Atlantic once again and look toward a region that has long been the beating heart of global Catholicism. For centuries, no other part of the world has been home to so many Catholics. Faith shaped family life, inspired national celebrations, guided communities, and accompanied people from baptism to their final farewell. In many places, being Catholic was not simply a religion, it was part of a family's identity and history. That is precisely why the changes taking place today deserve our attention. Across Latin America, the religious landscape is becoming increasingly diverse. While millions remain deeply devoted to the Catholic faith, many others are choosing different Christian communities, different spiritual paths, or no religious affiliation at all. The reasons are as varied as the people themselves. Some are searching for a stronger sense of belonging. Others are drawn to communities where they experience personal attention, active participation, uplifting music, and emotional support during difficult moments in life. Still others quietly drift away from organized religion without rejecting the idea of God. Perhaps this reveals something important about the human heart.
People are not only searching for beliefs, they are searching for hope, for meaning, for friendship, for healing, and for a place where they feel seen and welcomed. And that may be one of the greatest lessons of this story. The real question is not simply why people are leaving one church or joining another. The deeper question is what they are searching for and whether they believe they have found it. If even the region that has long been the world's largest home of Catholicism is changing, then this is no longer a local phenomenon or a temporary trend. It is a transformation that reaches across cultures, languages, and generations. Which leads us to perhaps the most important question of all. Are we witnessing the disappearance of faith? Or
are we witnessing a new chapter in humanity's eternal search for God?
After looking at the United States, Europe, and Latin America, it is easy to reach a pessimistic conclusion. Empty churches, changing traditions, and declining religious affiliation seem to tell the same story. But history invites us to be more careful. For more than 2,000 years, Christianity has survived events that once appeared impossible to overcome. It endured persecution under the Roman Empire, internal divisions, wars, epidemics, revolutions, and countless moments when many believed its future was uncertain. Yet, it endured. Perhaps that is because the human search for meaning never truly disappears. Every generation asks the same questions, even if the language changes. Who am I? Why am I here? Is there a purpose to suffering? What happens after death?
Science can explain how the universe works. Technology can make life faster and more connected than ever before. But neither can fully answer the deepest questions of the human heart. And that may explain something important about our own time. Perhaps people are not abandoning the search for God. Perhaps they are searching for Him in different places through different experiences, and sometimes in ways that leave them more confused than fulfilled. The real crisis may not be the disappearance of faith. It may be the fragmentation of faith.
In a world filled with endless voices, endless opinions, and endless distractions, silence has become rare. Reflection has become difficult, and many people spend years searching for peace without ever asking where lasting peace can truly be found. History teaches us that faith has often grown stronger after periods of crisis. Moments of uncertainty have frequently become moments of renewal, because they force people to ask the questions they had forgotten. And perhaps that is where our story begins to change. Maybe the most important question is no longer why millions are leaving. Maybe the most important question is what will inspire millions to return.
Statistics can tell us how many people have left the church. They can measure attendance, membership, and demographic change. But they cannot measure the quiet faith of a grandmother who still prays every night for her family. They cannot measure the father who teaches his child the sign of the cross before bed. They cannot measure the young person who, after years of doubt, walks into a church and lights a candle in silence. Some of the most important realities in life cannot be counted. They can only be lived. Throughout history, the church has never survived because of buildings, wealth, or political influence alone. It survived because ordinary people chose to keep believing when the world around them was changing.
Every generation faces that decision. Our grandparents received the faith from those who came before them. Our parents were asked to preserve it. Our generation must decide whether to live it. Perhaps the future of Christianity will not be determined only by surveys or statistics. Perhaps it will be determined around dinner tables where families pray together again. Perhaps it will begin in parents who teach their children about Christ. Perhaps it will begin in one person who returns to confession after many years. History often remembers great events. God often works through small decisions. And sometimes, the renewal of an entire generation begins with a single heart, willing to believe again.
The great exodus is real. The numbers deserve our attention, and the challenges should not be ignored. But history reminds us that Christianity has faced moments of uncertainty before. Empires have risen and fallen. Cultures have changed. Civilizations have transformed.
Yet the message of Christ has continued to reach new hearts in every generation. So perhaps the greatest question is not whether the church will survive. The deeper question is whether faith will continue to live within us, within our families, and within the children who will inherit the future. Because churches are built with stone, but the church itself is built one soul at a time. And maybe the next chapter of this story is not waiting to be written by historians. Maybe it is waiting to be written by us.
But this story is far from over. Understanding why millions are leaving the church is only part of the picture. An even more important question remains. Why, despite every crisis, every scandal, and every challenge, do millions of people still choose to remain Catholic? What do they see that others no longer see? That is the question we will explore in our next episode. Why I still choose to be Catholic. I hope you'll be there.